Derek T. Dingle, Senior Vice President and Chief Content Officer for Black Enterprise. Welcome to our panel, Investing in Racial Equality. How can corporate America help advance Black business? Months of civil unrest this past summer over a long-standing history of police brutality and systemic racism, among other inequities, caused corporate America to pledge billions to drive race equity and fund Black business development. So have those programs been successful so far? Our panel will examine how corporate America can truly help address racial inequities through concrete actions. We will discuss what actions are being taken today and how Black entrepreneurs can best take advantage of those programs. We hope to explore how these pledges and efforts can result in long-term economic advancement for Black entrepreneurs and eventually help narrow the racial wealth gap. I'm here today with our panelists, Ted Archer, Executive Director of Global Philanthropy for JPMorgan Chase, and Jahan Crump Gibson, Managing Partner, Great Lakes Legal Group, PLLC. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to start, Ted, with having you share your roles and responsibilities as the Executive Director of Global Philanthropy for JPMorgan Chase.
Well, Derek, first, thank you for organizing this discussion and for allowing me to participate. In my current role, what I do is I lead global efforts supporting small business expansion from the JPMorgan Chase Foundation globally. And what I've been exposed to over the course of my career is that small businesses in every city, in every country across the globe need four basic things. They need access to money, markets, management skills, and then mentors and networks. And what's true about what small businesses need is that many small businesses face unique barriers, particularly marginalized business owners. So in the US, what we're talking about primarily are Black and Brown communities. And in order to help our country and our economy recover from some of the structural concerns and racial inequalities that have only been exacerbated by COVID-19, it's going to take a targeted set of efforts to comprehensively address these racial inequities. And frankly, the role of corporate America and the role that we see as JPMorgan Chase is to do our part, leverage our expertise across what we do as a business, inform and influence our clients and customers, but then also support the environment, which is of course greater than us. So that means partnering with institutions outside of ourselves, working with policymakers to ensure that what we have in terms of a support system for small businesses actually does support those who need it the most, because we know that where the gaps are widest, that's where we have the most opportunity and the most to gain. So what I do day to day at JPMorgan Chase is work with a number of expert colleagues inside of our firm to ensure that we're leveraging the best of what we have to offer, which is our products and services, our philanthropy, and quite frankly, the expertise and reach of our people who span the globe.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me be a part of this important conversation. I'm a managing partner at Great Lakes Legal Group. We're a small boutique legal and consulting firm in the Detroit area. Day to day, in addition to managing the firm's business, I also work closely with small business owners from startup to advising on contract documents, employment matters, the whole nine. I also practice probate and estate planning and love to marry the two areas because it's important for our business owners to make sure that they establish business succession as well as estate planning. Their businesses are typically their largest assets. So we work regularly with businesses of all industries: trucking, towing, restaurants, which I love, retail, which I love. So we get to see these businesses from when they come in the door, as they grow, as they add on staff, and as they navigate the waters of being Black entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general.
Oh, so that's great. We have the right people in the room to go forward with our conversation. The first question to both of you is, Many CEOs over the last few months, as I mentioned in the intro, have invested billions in race equity programs. They've made statements. They've had fundraisers. I'd like to get your sense of where we are right now. Have these efforts been successful?
I'm happy to take that first, Jehan. I know you have a view on this from your vantage. So Derek, I'm happy to be a part of what I think is a growing sense of momentum that corporations are assuming more of a role in what some of the solution sets need to be to address structural racial inequity. And many of what the corporations have sought out to do is take a long-term view. That what took us 400 years plus to get to in this current state is going to take a long-term investment to get us to the point where we have true equity that's not a drag on our economy. And that's why this is so important. Corporations thrive, our business community thrives when we all have access to the systems that allow us to be contributors. And so I can speak obviously from JP Morgan Chase's vantage, which is, we've set out to do a sort of long-term commitment, applying a $30 billion 5-year commitment to address a comprehensive set of issues that afflict our system that lock certain people out. And so for us, it's building off of past investments to unlock opportunities for Black businesses in particular and other marginalized businesses. So we've been at this for some time. A couple of years ago, we embarked on a specific set of initiatives to address Black pathways. Our initiative is called Advancing Black Pathways, and it's integrated fully within our firm. And our community at Black Enterprise knows this because we've partnered with Black Enterprise, the National Minority Supply Development Council, the U.S. Black Chambers, and the National Urban League to put in place an important
Black
set of That's right. to put in place a management skills series that addresses the Black entrepreneur experience and our ability to recover, because there are unique barriers that we face that we need to address head on. So our commitment over 5 years looks across some of the different levers of economic opportunity, from affordable housing to financial health to employment, jobs and skills, and ultimately to the place that we're discussing here, which is supporting Black-owned and minority-owned business. And the way to do that is to take a view that says, this is what we're going to do as a firm. We're going to invest our resources to make sure that an additional $2 billion in lending reaches majority Black and brown communities over these 5 years, carving out a role for our bankers to be in new communities, but also to say, we're going to make sure that 15,000 small businesses who weren't going to get touched before have access, have differential access than what they had before. But that's just a piece of it, right? The other portions of this have to do with how we use our own role, our voice, to influence how we bring others along. So I'm especially proud of what it means for us to look at the entire financial system. So what is it about Black-owned banks, minority depository institutions, where we can play a role in ensuring that these banks that have done more with less than any other bank, are super efficient, particularly for their size, have access to the kinds of resources that allows them to grow and scale and meet more of the needs of minority communities, because they're already doing it. They're just capital constrained and don't have enough resources to grow and scale as necessary. And then the last thing I would just add is how we work with lawmakers and policymakers to address the environment more broadly. There are things that prevented more Black business owner access to the Paycheck Protection Program, for example. Those are things that we can address head on because we've seen it. We obviously bank 4 million customers across the US. So that gives us a particular advantage to understand that, look, Black business owners have more opportunity if they're given the kind of financing that allows them to address the lack of cash buffer, right? Black businesses have less than 2 weeks of cash buffer to pay their bills. And so knowing that, there are things that we can do to work with our counterparts at the SBA, at Treasury, et cetera, to make sure that this environment actually addresses the needs of Black business owners.
So, Jehan, I'm going to ask you to give your assessment of where we stand right now in terms of the corporate commitments to African-American businesses. And at this point, has it gone far enough? What concrete steps have to be taken to ensure that Black business are positioned to grow in this environment?
That's a great question. And I'll honestly be piggybacking off of a lot of what Ted has said. I think that we hear the commitments and they're admirable. It's going to take some time, though. The businesses at the ground level here in Detroit, and that's what I can speak for, access to capital is an absolute issue. The issue where paycheck protection came up during COVID, I actually sat on a roundtable with Senator Garrity Peters, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, and we talked about that very issue. So what can be done at the federal level to provide resources to these local institutions? And in Michigan and the Detroit area, we have First Independence Bank, for example. That's a Black owned institution. Unfortunately, though, they only have so many resources. We have efforts that are triggered down through the state's development fund where some businesses get resources. We have some that are in the Midtown and downtown area that get funds from Invest Detroit, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, but that's only a small fraction. So what I find is when my clients come in the door and they're talking about, funding, there's an issue. The lenders, what they're looking at in terms of what they judge for creditworthiness, and my clients aren't getting it. So what do? They take on investors that get a much larger piece of the pie than they probably should have because they're desperate for cash. They max out credit cards. And this is, the average person, unless they have, a family or a friend that they can borrow money from, if they've worked a good job for quite some time and have a nest egg in savings. But the average client that I deal with doesn't have that. So we know that these programs are in place. They're on the way. But I think we have to do a lot more in collaborating with the legislature. More institutions like JP Morgan, we'd like to see their programming step up, and also resources and knowledge. I think a lot of times with my clients, and sometimes I catch them after startup, they've started the whole DIY, set up my own business, I got my own thing going on, and they don't come to me until there's a problem. And so they're saying, oh, I want access to this loan or these funds. And I look, if it's an LLC, I'll say, okay, well, where's your operating agreement? Where's it? And they'll look at me and say, huh, my what? And so knowledge and providing resources for these business owners and skills to get the books where they need to be so that they can be in position when this trickles down, these efforts trickle down. So we know that it's coming. We're just waiting desperately for it to happen.
Okay. So in transparency, Ted had talked about advancing Black pathways and the coalition of the advancing Black entrepreneurs, and as such, we share that partnership. So trying to find out more specifics on what can be done to recover businesses from the COVID environment. And Ted, I'm going to go to you first, and then Jehan, I'd like you to answer that as well, because we saw some 40% of Black-owned businesses shut their doors since February. Right now we're seeing businesses that tried to recover during the Great Recession, and now they're hit again. And then, then you're trying to look at starting up businesses. So what can be done to regain the footing of those businesses that have been hit? And what should be done in terms of starting business up? And I'll go with Ted first, and then Jehan, I'd like you to respond.
Derek, it's an excellent question, and so I'll preface my comments by first saying it's tough. It is a brutal environment right now where there are reports and research that say that Black businesses have shuttered at rates of 40%, right? Latinx businesses have shuttered at a rate of about a third. So it is really, really difficult right now in this environment. That said, there is always opportunity whenever you see challenges, but I didn't want to discount that. But my general comment here is to get in the game, right? Get in the game in terms of accessing the financial system. As Jehan pointed to, there are measures on the way, but there are also resources that you just may not know about, including Black-owned banks, including opportunities through available programming with Chase and Black Enterprise to understand kind of your financial situation and how you get more resources that you could take advantage of. But then also, right, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that we've got an attorney here who supports small businesses directly, and it's get professional, get expertise on your side. And so a lot of what will be required here is not just understanding your own financial situation, but also just knowing how to navigate and what kind of tools and tricks you can employ to stay afloat. And I think in order to do that, you need management expertise. You need the right kinds of mentors and networks to make sure that you can survive what's happening today. The other thing I would mention, in addition to just getting in the game, getting professional advice and expertise, whether it's from Chase or from an expert like Jehan, it's ensuring that your voice is heard. And so our role as a corporation is to use what we have at our disposal to make available resources for clients and customers. But then I mentioned policy. Well, this policy thing is real, right? What's happening at the local level in particular is really important. And how it is that your local municipality is responding depends in large part on the voices and the pressure that small business people, who are often the pillars in the community, how they respond and how they voice what's needed. So it's important that you use your voice, that you understand what some of the decisions are being made, so you can weigh in and be a part of it. Get in the game, right? Access the financial system. And there's some things there that obviously at JPMorgan Chase, we'd love to help you with. And then also just get expertise on your side, get professional expertise on your side. And I think those three things will be really helpful to wade this incredibly difficult time that we're all in.
Jehan, to dovetail off what Ted talked about, get that team of professionals. Share with me what entrepreneurs need to do in terms of bringing that team together. And then also, you are an entrepreneur yourself. How did you weather, the COVID storm and come out stronger on the other side?
Great questions, Derek. First of all, talking about that all-star team, I preach that from the rooftops on a regular basis, not only to my clients, but I also try to participate in panels from groups that provide resources to entrepreneurs, existing or those that are looking to get started. You got to have an attorney. I mean, a lot of folks come in, oh, I can't afford it. I don't have the budget. You can't afford not to. There's so many pitfalls that are out there. You're good at your craft. You're good at the service that you provide, but you don't have this level of expertise. So you can't foresee those pitfalls that you may fall into. And this is whether you're a sole owner, and more so if you have a partner. Your CPA, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a tax professional on your side. They're going to be the person that's leading you down the right path in terms of everyday bookkeeping. They're going to give you tax saving strategies that you wouldn't otherwise know yourself. And then also making use, as Ted says, of your bankers and your financial advisors, or whatever term they are at whatever institution. This is your all-star team. This is who you need to succeed. It's not optional. It's investing in your business just like you would any equipment or anything else that you need to run your business. In terms of us, because as you said, Derek, we're also entrepreneurs. Not only do I help small businesses, I am one. And the roundtable that I referenced earlier when we sat with Senator Peters from Michigan a couple weeks ago, I indicated to him that, you know, thankfully we're a bit more savvy. We knew to lean on our CPA because that Paycheck Protection Program, I can't even tell you. I work with small businesses and I'm a lawyer, and I was still scratching my head saying, where do I start? So we just gave all the books to our CPA and said, help. And we actually missed that first round. This is kind of, you know, jumping back to what Ted mentioned earlier in terms of Black businesses not getting that first, you know, pot of money that came out. You saw larger corporations getting $2 million. And we're looking around like, well, wait a minute, what about us? And so we came around, Senator Peters actually did a Zoom, of course, we're all Zoomed out, but he had someone from SBA there. He had someone from one of our community investment funds there to tell business owners more help is on the way. Here's what you can do. And as Ted said, you have to tap in. So we need corporations. We need, you know, the legislators, we need the policymakers, but then we also have to meet them. We can't just sit back on our couches waiting and saying, okay, well, some help is going to fall out from the sky somewhere from us. That's not going to happen. And so that's what I told my clients. And that's what we had to do ourselves. We had to step forth, get help from professionals, and get those resources that are available to us.
Yeah, part of the equation is, and we've always said that entrepreneurship is another platform for wealth building. How do you advise small businesses, Black-owned businesses, to use their businesses to accumulate wealth, you know, especially given the rough road that they've traveled over the last few months?
Great question. I think jumping back to my point about making sure that you have professionals around you. So, you know, once you get to the level where you're generating profit, so you're not operating in the red and you're like, yes, I've made it. Unless this is your actual industry, you need assistance from financial advisors and wealth advisors to give you the tools that you need to grow it and protect it. So it's not only about growing it, Derek, it's about protecting it. And that's when we get into business succession planning and estate planning. And that's something that we do not talk about enough in the African-American community. I've had way too many estates in probate court, fortunately for me, but unfortunately for individuals, heirs, and their businesses that suffer because business interest is tied up in probate. You're eating down on whatever wealth that has been left behind because you didn't have a plan in place. So the first piece is, yes, you need to get with those professionals to help you grow that wealth, but as important as growing it is protecting it. And so that's why you have to sit down with financial advisors and with estate planners. Black business owners, we miss that part of the equation. We're just so concentrated on, quite frankly, trying to make it, number one, making sure that cash flow is up, that you can make your payroll, you can pay your rent, and you can take some money away from yourself, but we neglect that protection piece. So what happens if you become incapacitated? If COVID taught us nothing else, it's that you just literally can't plan for the unexpected. There's so many business owners that didn't have a playbook in place for, okay, so what's supposed to happen for those of us who can't actually survive this? What's the playbook? For unfortunately, those that lost their lives, businesses were crippled, not just because they didn't have financial resources, but everything fell apart when the brains of the operation either got very sick or passed on. So we've got to do a better job of that. Protection, it's key.
Okay. So Ted, the $30 billion investment is about closing the racial wealth gap. You've spent a lot of time with Black-owned businesses, small businesses. What advice do you give to those businesses to, build wealth? And what is, and you shared some of the programs within the 30 billion to build wealth. How do you incorporate that with the entrepreneurial programs?
Yeah, Derek, and I think Jahan's points were so spot on too, just in terms of how the intersection of your venture, of your entrepreneurial venture, your personal financial health, and frankly, what I was thinking about as she spoke was the intersection between those two things, your small business, your personal financial health, in your commercial real estate, right? Many small business owners don't own the spaces that they occupy. They're renters, which is great if you're able to access space via renting. But now more than ever, I think what we're seeing is there's a real importance to be placed on owning your commercial space and now accessing your ability to do so. So when we're thinking about whether it's transitioning ownership or estate planning, we have to make sure that that's a big piece of the puzzle. Ownership across the spectrum, owning your finances, owning your business, and then ultimately owning the space that you occupy for that business. All three of those are so important. So Derek, I would also just add the opportunity that exists now for small businesses. I mean, this feels like a bottom, if you will. So we got to go up from here, right? We know that COVID has exacerbated existing wealth inequalities to the point where before COVID, the Black community was trending towards zero wealth by 2053, right? So it is urgent. Right. So these things all have to work together where you're getting involved in a financial system, you're accessing, your bank account, your savings account, checking, that you're not commingling as much as possible your personal finances from your small business account finances, and that you're taking advantage of opportunities to build on your savings, but also build on opportunities to make the key investments that are going to drive the core of your business. And those things happen best when you've got a team around you, right? As Jan mentioned, when you've got the right expertise that you can leverage. But it will require for us to do something different than what we were doing before. So a big piece of that is making sure that you do have kind of a full view of what's available to you. Our commitment as a firm at JP Morgan is to ensure that across those four different areas, financial health, affordable housing, employment, jobs and skills, and then small business, that those things are working in tandem inside of our company, in community, in places like Detroit, where we have over the last 5 years been involved with our Entrepreneurs of Color Fund, which is now a small business fund made available over 5 different metro areas and growing. We want to make sure that that expands to as many cities across the US as possible. But that's just a piece of it, right? That's a big piece of what entrepreneurs can gain access to. There are other opportunities to do so at the local level. States and cities are stepping up in new ways, but you can only take advantage of those things if you're in the game, if you've got a sense of what your financial situation is, and then you can take advantage of what's available to you.
So take advantage of both the business programs as well as the personal finance and wealth building programs to move your, wealth agenda forward.
Absolutely.
Ted, we're about to wrap up soon, but I'd like you to share, some final tips for our entrepreneurial audience as they navigate through the current environment and look at a post-COVID climate.
So I've been able to work in the space of unlocking financial and market opportunities for marginalized business owners over the course of my career. And whether you're in Detroit, Southwest Detroit, or you're in parts of South London, or you're in South Africa in Johannesburg, small businesses, Black-owned businesses, they need the same 4 things: money, markets, management skills, and then mentors and networks. Those are the 4 things that any small business owner, regardless of who you are, you need. As Black small business owners, as Black entrepreneurs, those things are less available. So it's important that you identify and access the kinds of resources to help you get what's needed to move your business forward. And now more than ever, we know the impact that economic shocks have. So this is our normal, right? We can expect there to be economic shocks every once in a while, right? It happened in 2008, it happened again in 2020. We need to prepare ourselves for that kind of reality. And the best way to ensure that you are resilient and somewhat inoculated from these economic shocks is to take advantage of the kinds of resources that we've been talking about today. The expertise from small business owners and gurus like Jahan. It's understanding that you have a voice to speak to the kinds of resources that your state or municipality should make available, or at the federal level for that matter. And it's making sure that the corporations who are in communities across the US, in your city, have the kinds of engagement opportunities that can make it meaningful for you to move your wealth agenda forward and to move your small business forward.
Okay.
Everything said there.
Thank you very much for being here. As we wrap up, I'd just like to say that for those who need more information on the JP Morgan Chase program, and specifically Advancing Black Pathways, which Black enterprises are partner with, we have regular webinars on how businesses can ride out the COVID environment and position themselves for the future, as well as how to access loan resources. Go to jpmorganchase.com/ABP to learn more about Advancing Black Pathways. Both of you have been fantastic. You've given us some great advice for our entrepreneurs out there, and we'll look at the future in terms of these corporate programs and whether they really are impactful. Look forward to looking at the $30 billion investment and how that furthers Black entrepreneurship as well as Black wealth building. So thank you very much once again for being here, and everyone, enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you
so much.
The Business Opportunity Showcase is now open. Our sponsors and small business exhibitors have a lot to offer, so be sure to stop by to make direct connections with sponsors and small businesses via video and live chats. Gather the resources and white papers to help you get ahead in your backpack and more. In each session, you will have a chance to connect with some of our dynamic speakers who will answer your questions in the live Q&A chat. Take advantage of our networking opportunities and connect with fellow attendees in the lounge. Be sure to get on the leaderboard to compete for great prizes daily. You can start by using the hashtag BEsummit. Check the gamification tab to find out how to score points and the leaderboard to check your status. Prizes will be awarded. Don't miss the opportunity to tap into the experience and